Hello, 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 and welcome to the Arsenal Ramble, where today we're going to be discussing the Premier League home clash against Everton. As always, I'm joined by my co-rambler Dom. How are you, mate? You good? Did you enjoy your Everton matchday experience? That's the real question. How was that?
Yeah, it was really good. But today I'm feeling really tired because with it being a midweek fixture, I had to do a bit of rejigging with work. So I had
Mm,
to, go down, watch the game in London because we're not from London, we're from Lincolnshire. So it's about
mm.
an hour and a half journey each way. So I had to do that, and then I was then working today at 8 in the morning. So I'm absolutely knackered,
Mm.
but what a way to get me through that by witnessing the Arsenal win 4-0. It was a very delightful day. And what I want to say as well, it's the first Premier League game that I've been able to actually attend to this season. And my God, the atmosphere was absolutely spectacular. It was so good throughout the whole game. Even the build up when you're in the pubs outside. We went to the 12 Pins in Finsbury Park, which we're quite familiar with. And yeah, you saw that everyone was buzzing, and you could tell that it was more of the regular crowd that goes, because when we went to the cup games earlier in the season, it's nice to have different sort of crowds there, but when there's more kids and families and things that go, and not the regular season ticket holders, etc., it's not as raucous as it was tonight. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
a really decent match day experience for me.
yeah, man. You could have picked a better game, really, could you? Because these absolute thrashings only come every like once in a blue moon, don't they? And to witness the thrashing of Sean Dyche's Everton only weeks after we lost to them, So, you get to see that revenge fixture and yeah, just mega, mega jealous, really. But what a game. I also was pretty buzzing because, like you say, we're from Lincolnshire, but I was born in Grimsby, so I do have affiliations with Grimsby Town still, as being my local team, who managed to beat Southampton and get themselves into the quarter final of the FA Cup. Um, which for a League Two team is unheard of. And this is massive for a lower division team because the money it generates just from ticket sales and things like that, which they get, is going to be huge for them. So that was also great to see. And then also Tottenham losing to Sheffield United, getting knocked out as well. Just what a night! What a night!
Yeah, I don't think you could have asked for much more on a night like last night, could you? Literally,
No.
your two teams that you're affiliated with both came through. Arsenal absolutely thrashing Everton, and then, as you say, Grimsby going through, and then Spurs getting knocked out. It was just perfect, really, wasn't it? It could have been made better if maybe Man United got knocked out, but you can't ask for
Mm.
everything, can you? But yeah, it was a really good evening. It was. Even from it was the first time as well when I went to the Emirates that they sung the North London Forever song, where everybody kind of knew the words and everyone was singing along to it.
Mm.
Whereas like earlier on in the season, they'd play it and everyone was looking around like, does he know the next line, or like whatever? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, it was really good, and you saw that it really galvanized all the players. And really from the off, we could tell that we were baying for blood and we wanted to get that. There was a needle to the game. There was definitely revenge in mind from the Arsenal boys.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. It seemed, well, to be fair, the first 35, 40, you could see that there was a little bit of pressure going on there, wasn't there? A little bit of a, oh God, it's this low block again. How are we going to break it down? But once we'll get into
Mm.
it obviously in a bit, but once they got into the groove, it was just the floodgates were open, weren't they? And it was just, see you later. Um,
Yeah.
but before we get into all that, let's sort of rewind a little bit and talk around the team sheets. So basically we were unchanged from Leicester. I mean, in my opinion, if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. I suppose the one caveat to that is obviously around Partey, and if he's fit, he obviously walks back into the team. But I don't think he necessarily is 100% match fit yet.
Mm.
So it made sense to me. Did it make sense to you?
Yeah, it did. And you touched on it a little bit there. I thought the only thing that we might have been changing is because of fitness, really. And it's just a testament to how fit our players are, the fact that they can play at the weekend and then field the same team basically again in midweek. And then I'm sure we probably will be starting this same team again at the weekend. Arteta's a firm believer of when he's found something that works, he doesn't like to change it, does he? So, yeah, I was really happy, especially because of how convincing we'd been with this team. Especially at Leicester, they only had a 0.01 XG against us, so it's a really good setup from the back. And then, yeah, I was really happy to see. I feel bad for Nketiah because of how well he's done when he came in, but obviously his form's dropped off. So, I was happy to then see Martinelli and Trossard be dovetailing up top again.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to work really well, didn't it, against Leicester? So why change it essentially? And I think again, it worked brilliant today. Not today, yesterday. We're recording the day after. But yeah, I thought it worked brilliantly. The interchange and often sometimes you'd see Martinelli pop out on the right. You'd see Saka go on the inside forward. You'd see Xhaka out on the left wing. Like it was, there might be a formation on paper, but it doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to play out. So I think it's really interesting to have a player like Trossard in this team essentially, because he's got so much more to his arsenal than Nketiah. Let's be honest. I love Nketiah. I really do love him. I think he's done great since coming in the team, but there's limitations to his game, and there's certain aspects of Trossard's game that really bring out the players around him. So I think that was great to see, and yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it's probably going to be how we start at the weekend too.
Yeah. And the good thing about our team now is there is real fluidity throughout the whole team. So not even just those front three players. So if we're going to be going into our first goal that we actually scored today, Zinchenko, who is our left back, found himself in the half space on the right flank to then be able to pick out an absolutely superb pass through to Saka, who, he just gets the ball on the spin, takes it out of his feet. And then this is a finish, which I think is starting to be a bit of a trademark for Saka, because we're so used to him being really, really effective with his left foot. And we almost underrate his right foot ability. But this was a similar goal to the one that he scored against Leeds earlier in the season, where he from the same sort of position, where he absolutely rifles the ball into the top of the net. And I think that's pretty much one of the only places he can put it to be able to beat the keeper, unless he has really good placement in the far corner. But as I say, on your weaker foot, it's quite difficult to go for placement. It is better just to go for power. So yeah, that was an unbelievable goal, and it all started through Zinchenko and him having license to be wherever he wants to be on the pitch.
Yeah, massively. Yeah, I thought Zinchenko had an absolutely amazing game. Probably the best game I've seen in an Arsenal shirt from Zinchenko. I think he pretty much had a hand in all of our goals, maybe apart from the Martinelli one, the first Martinelli goal. He was instrumental, wasn't he? He was brilliant. Was there ever a point in the game, in that first 40 minutes, where you were thinking, is this going to be similar to the first game? Is this going to be another scrappy 0-0, or maybe they nick a goal from a set piece type situation again? Did that ever come into your mind, or do you think it was a matter of time? It was just about patience.
I'd be lying if I didn't think that, especially after we hadn't scored for what was going on 35, 40 minutes or so. I was getting pretty worried. I think it's only natural to be like that as well, especially with our recent performances and even against this team that we played. So yeah, I was getting a little bit worried, but I saw enough from the guys in the first half up until the point that we scored that I was feeling quite confident that we're better than these. We shouldn't have even lost to these in the first game that we played against them. And Everton really didn't create much at all in that first half. So yeah, I was feeling like it could have just been a matter of time, but it was essential that we did actually end up scoring that first goal, or else, you know, it's pointless, isn't it? So yeah.
Yeah. The timing of that goal, well, the first two goals were crucial. It sort of put the nail in the coffin, didn't it? And it allowed us to open the floodgates of the second half. But yeah, just going on to Saka's goal a little bit more. What an absolute brilliant player he is. He just any sniff at goal and he's taking it. He's so clinical. And like we're just saying, it's exactly what we needed at that point in time because he was getting triple, double manned out on the wide by McNeil, is it? Can't remember the other player for Everton, but he was essentially just getting absolutely no space to do what he needed to do. But obviously, the brilliant Zinchenko unlocked that beautiful pass, and yeah, it's honestly it's amazing to see. And I've got a lovely little stat here as well. Of Saka's 10 Premier League goals that he scored this season, all of them have either been goals to give Arsenal the lead or equalisers. So it just goes to show, like, what an absolute clutch player he is, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And people started to say that Bukayo Saka, he's a bit of a big game player, but I would go as far as to say Bukayo Saka is an every game player because, as you show, literally in the Premier League, you're going to have times where you do go 1-0 down against these lower end of the table teams. It's going to happen. And if you don't have the bottle to be able to bring yourself back into the game, or, you know, if you're struggling or you're coming up against it, you need a player like Bukayo Saka who's going to step up and then just notch and then brings you straight back in the team. And then you can tell as soon as we equalise or we go in front, the belief in the squad is unbelievable. You can see that everyone, it's almost like with Arsenal that our confidence really, I mean, it's probably the same for every team, but our confidence really does go up an extra level when we do go ahead. You feel like we're not going to lose the game. As soon as we go ahead or we equalise, we're then going to push on and score the next goal. And for Bukayo Saka to be doing that week in, week out against any team in the league, pretty much, it's unbelievable how important he is to our whole setup. And yeah, we keep screaming out saying that we need someone who could maybe step in for Bukayo Saka because he plays so many minutes and his fitness must be taking a bit of a hit from now and then. But how can we leave him out when he performs this well every week?
Yeah, he seems indestructible, really, because of all of our players, he's definitely the one that gets kicked the most. I think he's up there in the top 10 for the Premier League players as well, with the most fouls against him. I saw an interesting article by The Athletic actually talking about how he needs more protection from referees because there's only a matter of time before one of those fouls could result into an injury. It's just the law of averages, isn't it? But this goes for any player. It's not because it's Saka or anything like that, but the repeated fouling to try and stop him from doing his game is something that I hope referees and start taking a bit more notice of. Because if we were to go without Saka for any period of time, I think it would have a massive impact on our performances and ultimately our points gained from games. So yeah, so crucial. And he was also very, very crucial in the second goal, which Martinelli scored, because he essentially just nicked it off Gueye's toe, didn't he? He just sort of prodded it along. And at first, I thought it was offside. And I think even Martinelli and Saka were in agreement, like, yeah, probably offside. Probably haven't got away with that one. But when they drew the lines, it was clearly just about level, just behind the ball. And great finish from Martinelli. What was your thoughts on that goal?
So this was a bit of a weird one being in the stadium because we don't have the luxury of seeing all the replays. So from my perspective, I was behind the goal that Martinelli actually scored in. So I see Saka dispossess Idrissa Gueye. And it actually looked like Idrissa Gueye, he was he was stopping because he thought there might have been a foul further up in the pitch. It didn't look like he was continuing to play. So, but I mean, you know, in football, you got to play to the whistle, haven't you? So he looks like he's delaying himself a little bit. And then from our perspective, it sort of looks like Saka nicks it to Martinelli, who does look offside. And then he finishes it. We still celebrate because you always celebrate when you put it in the net. And then when we saw that it was given offside, I think the general consensus of the ground was, yeah, fair enough. It did look offside. Like no one was really expecting it to be overturned until we were waiting like 20 or 30 seconds. And then that purple screen of goodness came up in the corner saying VAR checking potential onside or something. They were checking offside of goal. And everyone was looking around at each other thinking, hey, it did look offside, but yeah, we'll take it if it happens. And then when it was given, there was a massive roar. Everyone was, because you got the feeling then 2-0 up at home against Everton, and we're playing the way that we're playing. It felt like from that moment on, it was just going to be a party for the rest of the game, to be honest. So it was so important just before half time as well. And absolutely buzzing that was given. And yeah, I think on reflection, when I got home and I watched the replays, it is just level, but only just level.
Yeah, we're talking centimeters, aren't we? But that's not what the offside rule is for, is it? It's not to rule out goals because, you know, it's a centimetre in front or behind or whatever, you know. That's not what the rule's there for. So I'm glad that common sense prevailed and we didn't get another VAR controversy. And let's be honest, we're owed one. Not it was onside. We're not, you know, this isn't us being owed or anything like that. But you know, I'm glad that we got the rub of the green on this one. But yeah, like you said, what a great time to go 2-0 up, like just before the halftime whistle. That certainly knocked the sails out of Everton, didn't they? And if they were ever going to get anything from that game at halftime, they knew it probably wasn't going to be today. So the halftime whistle went, and we saw a halftime substitution. Jorginho came off for Thomas Partey. I think Jorginho's done incredibly well since he's come into the side. I think he's deputised really, really well, actually. Obviously came up clutch in that Villa game with that brilliant goal. I'm giving him the goal. And, you know, he's been quietly just going about his game. His tackles per game is up there with the very best or the highest of tacklers in the Premier League. His forward passing as well is so much better than I thought. So, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm still happy to see Partey come back in the team, but was this a substitution that you was hoping for, or, you know, was you just happy to see Partey back on the pitch?
Yeah, a bit of both, really. To be honest, of all of his games that Jorginho's actually played, I think this game that he started in the first half, I think this was his weakest performance. He lost the ball quite often. I think it was 4 or 5 times he tried to make a forward pass and he either overhit it or it just was to no one in particular. So a lot of people that are around me were calling for him to get substituted, and you know he did in the end. But I think even without that, I'm pretty sure this was like a pre-planned substitution that Arteta was going to make to give Partey at least half of the game to be able to get him back up to speed, because he's done this bring Partey on at 60th minute, then 45th minute, and then he's probably going to start the next game. So it's quite a wise move from Arteta. But yeah, he has deputised really well in the last few games. And to be honest, it was a substitution that we were all happy to see in the ground, just because of Jorginho's have a little bit of a dip in form. But that's not to take anything away from him, because he has been superb.
Yeah, I think, yeah, more than anything, it's just great to see Partey back, isn't it? It's nothing on Jorginho. It's just we know how instrumental Partey is to this team. And you could even see that in the second half. Like the level went up a notch, didn't it? His range of passing he was just dishing it left, right, and centre. He was actually very unfortunate not to get an assist for Nketiah when he came on later in the second half. Don't know if you remember, but it was just a looped through ball almost. Eddie controlled it pretty well, but just couldn't quite beat Pickford. So, it's really unfortunate there not to get a pretty much a worldy assist. So yeah, I'm glad to see him back, and I think as we keep saying, this run of games that we've got coming up, to have a Partey in back in the team with with other players coming into fitness as well, like Smith Rowe. Our bench is looking stronger. Our starting 11 is looking stronger. We're getting into form. It's just sort of tantalising, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jesus is back training. We all saw those photos on social media that he put on with him, with the ball at his feet again. So everything's on the up at the minute. So yeah, it's just it's making me look forward to these games rather than in early February when we was in like a little rut and I was just sort of almost not dreading the game but thinking like what are we going to get today.
Yeah.
But now it seems like completely the opposite, and I think this result has really compounded that.
Yeah, and it's gone from us having a rut of bad results to us just about churning out a result to then now us having a brilliant performance whilst also having our main first 11 teams coming back from injury. So it's just been like a snowball effect over the last few weeks of like a rise back to the top whilst also getting our best players back. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. So should we move on a little bit to the third Arsenal goal that came in the second half. It was a nice break through the midfield, and it came to Xhaka, who I felt like he was just kind of dilly-dallying on the ball a little bit, but he's actually waiting for Trossard to go into the perfect kind of position for him to then play that ball. And then when Trossard receives the ball, this guy, he just seems to do all of the simple things really effectively. He doesn't hesitate on the ball. He gets the ball, gets his head down, sprints to the byline, gets his head up, sees that Odegaard's running in, plays it back to Odegaard, who all he needs to do is just get a contact with the ball and it goes in. And it's just a testament, really, to how good Trossard's been this season, that all he needs to do is just get the ball and run at a player, and we've scored a third.
Yeah, he's just so direct, isn't he, and tricky with his feet, and defenders don't know whether to get close to him or to back off because he's just so unpredictable with what he can do. Like I say, you don't want to give him too much space because he's deceiving with his pace. Like a lot of people have been sort of saying, he's not the fastest, but he's got little short bursts. I can see that in him. And this goal sort of shows that in a sense because he showed brilliant and direct pace to get into that position to cut it back for Odegaard, and I'm really glad Odegaard's got a goal in this fixture because it dried up a little bit in recent games, and when Odegaard's scoring and being creative, that is when we're at our best. So if we can get an Odegaard nice and confident, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, he has had a bit of a dip in form, as have all of our team over that rut period. But it's good to see him getting back again amongst the goals again. And yeah, I felt like, with 3-0 up, we're cruising. We didn't really have any sort of threat posed against us at all, which is a testament to how well Saliba and especially Gabriel. I thought one thing that we did just bring it back briefly, was in the first half he made an outstanding last-ditch tackle on I think it was on Neil Maupay, which that could have been the catalyst for Everton maybe nicking a goal on us. So yeah, it's important not to glaze over that fact. But yeah, and also retrospectively, when Neil Maupay got substituted, I celebrated heavily because I have a bit of a vendetta against him. I don't dislike many footballers, but for ones that I do, it's Neil Maupay and probably Richarlison as well. But yeah,
The TV cameras proper zoomed in on Maupay as well, and it was proper salty as he went off. He was almost crying just how much that he'd just been absolutely battered. So it's absolutely great to see.
The thing is, as well, he was so ineffective when he played, to the point that he came off for, I think it was Demarai Gray, and Demarai Gray actually ended up having like a half chance pretty much straight away when he came on. So that's got to be a kick in the teeth to Neil Maupay. I don't want Everton to have any half chances against us, but if it's to the detriment of Maupay's confidence, then so be it.
Yeah, how Demarai Gray doesn't start over Maupay is absolutely baffling, isn't it? I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
sure if it's because he's more of a winger or, an inside forward, but how is like he's had an absolutely terrible season, hasn't he? He's been nowhere near what he was doing at Brighton. So yeah, to see him get subbed off and just look absolutely salty as it was just, it was great to see. So less than 10 minutes later, and you could sort of see it. It was almost like how many goals are we going to get today in this second half, especially. But yeah, less than 10 minutes later, after the Odegaard goal, it really just started to flow. And Eddie Nketiah came on and grabbed himself a nice little assist for Martinelli to finish off at the near post. Again, another really well taken goal. Part of me thinks Everton had almost given up by this point, but the floodgates were open. It was just a wave of attack after wave of attack, wasn't it? It was almost, yeah, like I say, how many can we get?
Yeah, I think they had given up slightly, but it is a really well created goal. Again, from Zinchenko, actually. He found himself on the left hand side in that half space. So it just shows you that how much he's allowed to be given that license to go anywhere along the front. But yeah, he plays it into Nketiah, as you say. And that's one thing that's good about Nketiah is the fact that he didn't score today and he had a really good opportunity to score. But he was still able to create for the team and he put that on a plate for Martinelli, who then scored. So I guess that is one thing that we were all saying about Jesus when he wasn't scoring, that as long as he's still creating goals and helping the team to be able to score, then we don't mind. So I guess you could always put that in there and say, yeah, Nketiah didn't score again, but he created a goal for the team. So yeah, you've got to be happy with that.
Yeah, and he didn't have he didn't have a tremendous amount of minutes to do what he can do. I think if he'd have played in this game, he would have scored at some point. There's no doubt, really. Yeah, I think he did pretty well when he came on. He looked pretty electric, and I'm hopefully that these couple of appearances off the bench and not being in that starting 11 has just given him a bit of time to recover. Because as we've been saying in previous podcasts, he's not been used to playing 90 minutes week in, week out. And now the games are going to be coming thick and fast with Europa League back. We're going to need to rotate. So thank God that we've got a Trossard to be able to utilise it at 9. And we've also got a Jesus hopefully returning back in the coming weeks. So it's actually come at quite a good time, hasn't it? These things happening. So yeah, a lot to look forward to. Towards the end of the game, I think it was right at the death, actually, around 93rd minute, Ramsdale pulled out an absolutely cracking save, almost slapped the ball away to keep his clean sheet. But it wasn't just down to Ramsdale. I felt like the whole team was sort of scrambling back to try and defend this. And that just shows to me the desire and the togetherness of this team to earn Ramsdale his clean sheet. Because he is fighting for that Golden Glove in the Premier League. He's only one behind Nick Pope now, who's leading on 12, and Ramsdale's on 11. So, and you could tell from that Amazon Prime All or Nothing documentary when there was a game in that last season where we did concede right at the end when it was a needless goal. It really affected him despite Arsenal winning. So I'm glad for Ramsdale's sake that one stayed out and we managed to keep a clean sheet.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie to you. 90th minute, 4-0 up. I was absolutely halfway to the tube station at that point. But
all right.
but yeah, no, it is really important especially for Ramsdale, because he it shows you how much it means to him to get these clean sheets, because ultimately, if we do concede, even though we have a really good game and he's not really been tested all game, then he doesn't get anything to show for it. So yeah, it's gonna mean a lot to him, and I think he's had the most. Was it the most away clean sheets in a Premier League season since Jens Lehmann did in 2003? I know, obviously, yesterday was a home fixture, but I just remember seeing that stat after the Leicester City game. So that is, that's a real stat to have on your accolades for this season, and hopefully he can pick up quite a few more and maybe be able to break some sort of personal record. But to be honest, I think for him, he's just happy for the team winning, and it's just an icing on the cake, really, to get that clean sheet as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%. Like that, 3 points on the board is the main thing. But when a game gets to that point in time when you've got a matter of minutes to see it out, it's got to be played on your mind a little bit as a keeper. Just a little bit longer, and I've got this clean sheet under my belt. Plus, Newcastle aren't looking as good as they once were, so I can't. Or early in the season, I've got a feeling that they may taper off a little bit, which may result in Nick Pope not keeping as many clean sheets in that. So, it's all a little bit irrelevant, really, isn't it? But it's just something that he's going to be thinking about. So, full time, 4-0. What a win. And this is our game in hand, let's not forget. So we're now level on matches played with Manchester City, 5 points clear of them. We're now into March. If I remember rightly, back in maybe November, December time, we were saying something like, if we get to March and we're still within a shout, then we'll start thinking, we're in a title race. Now it's March. Does feel very real, doesn't it? It does feel very, like we could do this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I feel like all season long, Arsenal fans have been moving the goalposts, haven't they? They say like, if we beat Chelsea, then we can maybe start thinking about it. If we beat United, and then we get through that period. If we beat Spurs, if we beat United again, and then we were both quite concrete, weren't we? We said after the World Cup, I think we had a 5-point gap when we came out of the World Cup, and we said if we're still in this kind of position, still within touching distance, I think we said, when it comes to March, then we're in with a shout. Well, we're not just in touching distance of Man City; we're 5 points clear of them still, which is where we found ourselves in during the World Cups, which is crazy. So, yeah, we never actually thought we'd be able to be in this position. And yeah, people say about how we had that game in hand. Don't forget about the game in hand. But you've got to win the game in hand, and we have won the game in hand. And yeah, it's just great to see. Another thing that's important to maybe have a little think about is our goal difference as well. That +4 today could really come in handy towards the end of the season, as we see Man City are on 39 for their goal difference, so we're on 33. So we've got a little bit of catching up to do to be able to match them for goal difference. But yeah, ultimately we just want to get more points to them, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. You never know what it may come to at the end of it. So to close that gap on goal difference could, who knows, be quite crucial. We have also got to go away to the Etihad as well, so that's a tantalising fixture on the horizon. We've got an Anfield trip, haven't we? We've got a fixture at St James's Park. So after this sort of relatively okay-ish run of games, it does become quite tricky. So I think now these next 4 or 5 games are where we really need to hopefully just get as many points on the board as possible and put ourselves in the best position. I don't want to think about City too much. I just want to focus on ourselves and just try and do what we can do, and hopefully other teams can help us out and take some points off City just to make us breathe a little easier.
Well, I think that's something that we actually messed up on when we played City the first time, is we always had our eye on that game. We were too focused about, City's coming. And then we ended up, dropping the ball against Everton and Brentford. And if we had won those 2 games, then we would have had an extra, 4 points. And the City loss would have really not meant much at all. So we need to focus on ourselves, focus on the games that we've got coming up, make sure that we get maximum points from this quote unquote easy-ish run. Don't want to jinx anything. And yeah, if we can go into that tough run of fixtures with a comfortable cushion, maybe even just with this 5-point cushion that we've still got now, then it's going to put us in really good stead going into that last 8 or 9 games of the season. And then it's just a straight shootout, really, isn't it? Can we do better than City? All we have to do is, if we still have that 5-point cushion, is just level them or do better. And I think we're more than capable of doing that, especially against the lower end of the table teams.
Yeah, exactly. And what's our next fixture? It's Bournemouth, isn't it? Bournemouth away.
Yeah, Bournemouth.
Is that right? Or is it home?
I think it's away.
It's away, right? Well, you'd like to think that's got to be a likely win, hasn't it? Home or away, you've got to be beating the teams like Bournemouth. So, no,
it's at home.
Home. Just double checked. Yeah. So, wow,
Yeah.
I wonder who City have got, because that could be. I've just said I don't want to worry about City, and I'm now worried about what City are playing. So, who am I trying to kid? But
let me have a look.
Yeah, that's a very, very winnable game, and it's coming at a good time as well. So,
yeah.
Do you think we'll rotate much for that, or?
I don't think we should. I don't think we need to either. I feel like the boys, they're not going to be feeling these little knocks and niggles, really, are they? Because they're going to be high on confidence, and you don't really feel as tired when you're scoring goals and you're helping the team win. So I feel like he's going to go with maybe the same team, potentially maybe Partey starting instead of Jorginho. But there's no real need for me to switch it up, because we've played so efficiently and so well in these last 2 games. I guess the only caveat to that is if there is any fitness issues, then he might be forced into a change, but apart from that, I can't see him changing at all. I've just double checked, by the way, and Man City have got Newcastle at the weekend. So there's potential for them to drop points there.
Well, someone's dropping points that's around us. That's the good thing, isn't it? So yeah, that's good for us. Another consideration is the fact that we've got the Europa League back just 4 or 5 days after that game against Bournemouth. So trying to think what Arteta's thinking. Is he going to be maybe looking at rotating a little bit in the Premier League game for Europa League? I don't think so. I think he's more likely to want to rotate in the Europa League. And for me, I hope he does, because it's getting to that point now where I'm starting to think, is the Europa League just going to be getting in the way for us? Is it something that we should be going all in for, or is it something we should maybe be rotating heavily in? It's a hard one. It's a hard one for me. I don't quite know the answer. But I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Would you rotate heavily, or would you bit of both, a bit of a mix, or would you go full strength?
Well, we should definitely go for it, because we're in the knockout stages of a European competition. We've not won a European competition in God knows how long. It's been so long. But equal to that, we've also not won a Premier League in about 20 years as well, which is, you'd probably say, more prestigious, especially against the Europa League. Maybe if it was the Champions League, then it's not to be sniffed at kind of thing. You'd want to go full strength in that. Yeah. But for the Europa League, which is pretty much, it's a nice trophy, and the real prize of the Europa League that everyone wants to win it for is to get that access to the Champions League. But it does look like, without jinxing it, we're probably going to qualify for that already in the league anyway. So there's not really a massive reason for us to want to go whole hog in the Europa League. But yeah, for me, I think Arteta, he's going to be completely tunnel vision focused on the Premier League. He's going to start probably the same team that he started this week against Bournemouth. And I would be happy for him to make a few changes. I still think he should leave some experience in there, but I feel like we're going to see the likes of Vieira starting maybe instead of Odegaard. We're going to see Jorginho instead of Partey, that kind of thing. I don't. Tomiyasu, I'm sure he'll play as well, and probably Tierney as well. I think Tierney's going to get some minutes just to save Zinchenko's legs a little bit. But yeah, I think we'll see quite a few changes. Maybe not wholesale changes, but we'll see a few changes.
Yeah, I really want to see Kivior as well. You know, when you make a new signing and you just really want to see him for the first time, like in pre-season in the summer, and you're willing to wake up at 4 a.m. just to watch a stream in America, just to see Jesus in an Arsenal shirt for the first time. It's like that with Kivior. I really want to see him. I watched him. He played the first 45 minutes for the under-21s the other day with Smith's Rowe as well, just to get some match fitness. And he looks really quite promising. You know, he was absolutely pinging balls left, right, and centre, really accurately as well. So yeah, it'd be great to see maybe a Kivior and Holding partnership against Lisbon. Yeah, with Tierney and Tomiyasu, I still think that back four is of real high quality. Should be more than capable of playing against a team like Sporting Lisbon.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but then at the same time, I feel like if you change too much of your back four, there might be a bit too much of disruption. To take out both centre backs to play Holding and Kivior, who haven't played individually for a very long time, and haven't played at all together. To then also partner them up with Tierney, who's not played for a while, Tomiyasu, who's had drips and drabs, and I'm assuming we'll probably be starting Turner in this game. So it's pretty much a fresh new back five of players which haven't played together at all. It could be a recipe for disaster. And I know that Lisbon, we should be rolling them over, but that would be with our first team. It's not going to be as easy to beat a cohesive team like Lisbon with a bunch of guys that have just been thrown together essentially. But I know what you mean. It would be great to see a shiny new signing, but I think maybe integrate him with a bit of experience as well. So either like a Saliba and Kivior, or like a Zinchenko, Kivior and Holding, at least keeping some sort of structure there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that. And I feel like we've definitely got the facilities to be able to go on and maybe get to the last stages of that competition. It's worth noting as well, it is 2 legs, isn't it? So if it does go to pot and we end up losing maybe 1 or 2-0, we can bring on the big guns for the second leg. So yeah, there's always that. It's also worth saying as well, something I forgot to speak about earlier actually, is how great it was to see Smith Rowe coming back onto the pitch. I know we said that he was returning, but to see him actually back on the pitch and playing was amazing to see. And there was a massive roar of the Saka and Smith Rowe song, which has kind of been a bit absent recently. And it was great to be able to sing that in the stadium as he's coming onto the pitch. Just filled my endorphins.
Yeah, that was really nice to hear actually, because I think Saka doesn't really have his own song, does he? So often that song gets sung for Saka, but it's a nice reminder that it's a joint song and that is very much there for Smith Rowe as it is for Saka. So it's nice for him to be able to hear that as he gets his reintroduction. And yeah, I thought he looked pretty sharp, you know. He got into some dangerous positions, and it was a nice little cameo from Smith Rowe, and I could see that sort of old Smith Rowe starting to come back a little bit in that brief, spell that he had. But yeah, really, really excited to have him back, and that's going to be. I mean, we said it back in January, didn't we? It's going to be huge for the second part of the season. It's we're now in March, and it's still not quite happened, but sort of it's better to not rush things and get it right, especially with the sort of injury that Smith Rowe's had. And I'm glad we took our time with it. And thankfully, we've been in a position to be able to take our time with this one. So yeah, it's really good to see him back.
Yeah, and talking about our signings from January and mixing that with players coming back, we are in a position now where, say, once Jesus is back as well, we could go into a game like against Sporting Lisbon and play Emil Smith Rowe, Fabio Vieira, Eddie Nketiah, and then you're literally resting Martinelli, Jesus, and Saka, and you've still got and Trossard could play as well. So you've got 4 quality players who are all Premier League proven and more than capable to be able to tear a team apart like Sporting Lisbon, whilst also resting top quality players as well. So it just shows you how important it was for us to get that bit of depth, which I don't think we would have been able to achieve that with just spending all of our money on a Mudryk. So it was really clever business in the end from Arsenal and Arteta. And we should just have our full faith in them. And buzzing.
I know exactly what you mean. Like, we should never doubt them ever again, because there's just been hit after hit after hit. And even when you're thinking, oh, Jorginho, Chelsea, aging player, I've seen this one before, it's not worked out well. But, this is Edu and Arteta that know what they're talking about. And it's just everything seems to be working. And, I remember at the start of the summer when we was heavily linked with Tielemans, and it was almost like, yeah, I can see that working, and they've obviously delayed it, and now I don't think we're even interested at all. And that's fine. If that's if they're not interested in this player, then I'll fully back them. Like I completely, I'm completely, you know, in agreement with them if that's what they think. So it is great, because we've had so many stinkers over the years where, we've signed Mustafi for 35 million, and everyone's like, hang on a minute. And Socrates, an aging play, and just absolute duffers. And it was almost obvious to see. So it's so nice to be able to, and also now we're going to be in a position of Champions League football with the ability to attract even better players. What could that bring Arsenal? What could that bring Arsenal in the transfer window? It's going to be super, super exciting, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, that is really going to elevate us to the next level. And there's players that we weren't able to attract before, the likes of Declan Rice, for example, who I think he had one eye on Chelsea. But then I think Arsenal are now in the pole position to be able to get him, just because we're pretty much going to have Champions League football. Chelsea look like they won't. So it shows you how important that is. And, it might be going to a title winning team. So there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to go in for players like that, which we wouldn't have been able to do finishing 8th in the league like we did before. So yeah, it's really great just to be able to keep elevating our performances whilst being able to elevate the caliber of transfers that we're also going to get. And also talking about those defensive transfers that we had before, when you think back to when we had David Luiz, Socrates, Mustafi, Kolasinac in a back line, and then you're looking at the players that we've got now, like Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu, Ben White. It just shows you that one of the main reasons why we actually have been so successful recently is because we sorted that defense out first. I think Arteta went to that defense and he stopped shipping goals. And then more recently, we've been able to work more on our forward play. But yeah, what a dreadful back line that was. I've got PTSD just hearing those names.
No, it was dark times. It really was dark times. But you're so right. Like, he focused on the priorities that needed fixing first. So yeah, he's like you said, he stopped leaking the goals. Then he focused on the wide forwards. Pepe won't really doing what he was brought in for. Luckily, we had a wonder boy sort of developing out of our academy. So thank God he was there to fill those shoes. But it just seemed everything just seems to have slotted into place. And even when people were doubting him, let's say for example with the Odegaard signing, a lot of people were saying, "Well, he's been here on loan for half a season or whatever it was, and didn't do amazing, didn't dig up any, didn't do, he didn't shine the league apart. Let's be honest." But he stuck with him, and even when he bought him in, he still sort of developed him behind the scenes. It took him a good few months to get into that team. Then now we're seeing one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. So he knows what he's talking about. We've got an absolutely amazing manager.
Yeah.
And I've just got absolutely full faith in him.
Yeah, and it's
Okay.
interesting as well because we at one point we had the pitchforks out for Arteta, not me personally, but the Arsenal fan base when he was finishing 8th in the league. A lot of Arsenal fans wanted him out, and it was quite interesting because I heard an interview with Graham Potter actually, who's in a lot of trouble at the minute, and he basically said like, "Oh well, look at Arsenal and look at what happened there. It took a long time for Arteta to be able to develop the team into how he wanted it to be. Let's not forget that he had 2 8th place finishes, and then that's when he started to weed out all the bad eggs and be able to progress. And I think Sean Dyche echoed that as well in his post-match interview. He was really he was praising Arsenal a lot in that post-match interview, basically saying like, yeah, we tried to set up the way that we did at home, but Arsenal, they're where they are now because of how good they are, and they were really good in this game. And a lot of that is down to Arteta and his and props to Arteta basically. And he was full of praise for us, and mainly Arteta, and saying that it has taken a few seasons, and a lot of teams tend to forget that they're too quick to pull the trigger on these young managers until they give them enough time to be able to develop a team into what could be a title winning team. So yeah, we're in a really good place at the minute. We've got a great manager, great ideas, a lot of really talented players who are all young, so they're only going to get better. And it looks like we can attract even better players in our next summer transfer window. So it's all to be enjoyed at the minute.
Yeah, it really is. Just before we finish up, because I'm conscious that we're on 51 minutes now, but I do find it quite funny that Graham Potter is trying to use the Arteta sort of blueprints to try and keep himself in a job. Because let's not forget, Mr. Potter, that you've been given over £500 million to sign new players, and they're not performing. And also, Arteta won an FA Cup in his first season. It's not like he was absolutely dreadful. From the get go, you could see the signs straight away. All Arsenal fans could see it. But yeah, I do find it quite funny that he's trying to use the whole Arteta thing to keep himself in a job. But I hope he stays in the job, to be honest.
Yeah, he's definitely living on borrowed time, isn't he? I feel like his days are numbered as a Chelsea coach. And I even thought that when he was first leaving Brighton, where they were in the table, I think they were like 6th or 7th in the table. And I thought, why would you leave Brighton to go to Chelsea? I know it's a much bigger team, but everybody knows the way that Chelsea act with their managers. They have them for a season or two. If they do really well, it doesn't even matter if they do really well. As soon as they have a bit of a bad patch, they're going to go. They're going to get sacked. So I feel like Potter was really comfortable at Brighton, and he was given license to pretty much do whatever he wanted with the club, and they were progressing really well. So, yeah, it's quite funny to see. Well, Chelsea are you're just nosediving down the table, aren't they? And yeah, amazing to see that, especially with how much money they have spent on players, and how they stole Mudryk from us, and he's doing badly. Amari Hutchinson wanted to go there because he felt like he'd have a better chance at progressing in that team when they've already got 47 other forwards. So yeah, brilliant stuff. Eject it right
Nice
into
to see. Okay, well, I think that's pretty much everything for the game, and also some extra little bits added on there at the end. Is there anything else that you forgotten to talk about, or anything you want to add?
No, I think we've covered just about everything. I just want to reiterate how amazing it is to be able to go to the Emirates, and how fortunate I was to be able to actually watch them. So, yeah, I'm really happy about that, and absolutely buzzing.
Cool. Okay, so that concludes another episode of the Arsenal Ramble. We hope you enjoyed the show. And don't forget to tune in next time for more action, analysis, and chat from the world of Arsenal. If you've got any comments or suggestions, feel free to reach us on Twitter. Our handle is @ArsenalRamble_. Bye for now. Take care.
Catch you next time.